Hello and welcome to this webinar on AQA's Power and Conflict Poetry Anthology. Today we're looking at London by William Blake. I hope by the end of this webinar that you will understand the poetic form and structure and how that links with key ideas. You'll understand some imagery and language features and a little about the context of the poem. Now, in the poem London, the writer draws our attention to cruel and unjust leaders who use their power to exploit the weakest citizens in society. Blake uses this lyrical, song-like form, I wander through each charted street, near where the charted Thames doth flow, to really explore this idea that he is an observer going and exploring London and understanding the consequences of the cruel use of power. He also uses quatrains, and there are 4 quatrains in this iambic tetrameter: in every cry of every man, in every infant's cry of fear. This steady, regular rhythm shows that the corruption and injustice and cruelty is entrenched in London life. He also uses rhyme, this alternate rhyme, AB, cry and sighs, walls and appalls, really perhaps to emphasize the inescapable corruption of the leaders. Stanzas 1 and 2 really focus on the misery of the capital city, and then stanzas 3 and 4 explain why London has been ruined. It's because of greed and injustice. So we move from the general to the specific, and the poem ends with, and blights with plagues the marriage hearse. Even the most precious and sacred thing in society, marriage, has been corrupted, has been infected, has been diseased. Thinking about the language and the imagery, the poet really uses language to depict the desperation, the despair of those who are powerless. We've got a great deal of contrast: blackening church, youthful harlot. The church is supposed to be a place of power and freedom and salvation, but in his day, he's criticizing the corruption and greed of religious leaders. Youth are supposed to be innocent, and yet harlots are anything but. So the use of contrast is really emphasizing the corruption and really showing the writer's disgust. There are many references to death, blood down palace walls, marriage hearse, that shows that in society, instead of hope, there's hopelessness, and that the exploitation, particularly political exploitation of soldiers who give their lives, their blood for the palace, they are neglected and discarded. Metaphors like the charted Thames and mind-forged manacles really show this sense of entrapment and imprisonment, physical and psychological. And the repetition, marks of weakness, marks of woe, again emphasizes the sense of not being free. There's a great deal of oral imagery, references to sound, like the hapless soldier's sigh. Soldiers are usually symbols of patriotism, of strength, of masculine power. But here, these soldiers are hapless. They've given up and they sigh because they've lost all their power. Thinking about the context of the poem, the voice that Blake uses is an omniscient observer. He's commenting and protesting society's despair. Blake was influenced by French philosopher Rousseau, who believed that society corrupts innocence, and the greed of politicians and religious leaders who are only thinking of themselves will only do society wrong. Blake also was criticizing those who were harsh and unequal during the Industrial Revolution. He felt the race for more industry and more wealth really created this unequal society that left people desperate and hopeless and powerless. I hope this has helped you to understand the poem better. Thank you for joining me, and goodbye.